Okay, are you ready to go?
I'm so ready to go. Let's do this.
I love this. Welcome to the You've Changed podcast. I'm your host, Kate Barron. I talk to people in the entertainment industry about moments of life or moments in their life of change. And today I'm talking with the wonderful and fabulous, talented actor, writer, comedy producer, comedy agent, live booker, events producer, like fucking everything. You just do literally everything in the comedy sphere, but then you're also an actor and writer.
Yeah. So I do everything. Yeah.
So
I'm a
welcome.
creative.
Oh yeah, and I didn't even, oh my God. Aimee Perry. That is her name. Her name is Aimee Perry. I'm an idiot. Welcome, Aimee Perry, to the podcast. This is what a fucking professional I am.
No, but it's fine. I mean, we're in a professional setting.
Yeah, I mean, look around.
Look
If
around.
you're listening to it on Apple, we'll paint the picture. We're in a comedy club right now. It's a wonderful club. And
it's a work of progress.
There's a lot of holes in the walls.
Yeah.
It looks like this used to be like a torture room for like crazy comedians where you like put them in here with like the rubber on the walls and
100%.
shit.
That's what we did. That's why the ones that have disappeared have really disappeared.
Yeah, right? What's like, there must be like actual lunatic comedians that like, are there people who you guys book or who you've worked with? You don't need to say where, what club or anything, but who you've worked with in the past who were amazing, but a fucking lunatic. And you're just like, how do we work with this person? But how do we also not work with them because they're so good?
Oh, yeah, 100%. There's so many of them,
Am I one
think.
of them?
Wow. Ugh. It's mostly men.
Yeah, fair.
If it is true, it is mostly men. I think so. I think if you're, I think to be a great artist, you got to be a little bit of a lunatic.
Do you think so?
I think so, a little bit. But
So you're an artist. Are you crazy?
Yeah, of course.
I knew that answer before I asked you. Do you think I'm crazy?
Yeah.
Do you think I actually am? I think I'm actually on the spectrum of crazy artists. I think I'm more on the normalish side.
Yeah, but I think there's a difference
Normal
between,
adjacent.
and this is from Drew Barrymore, so I'm quoting this from her.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between being crazy and insane.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
I'm crazy, but I'm not insane.
Yeah, so I think there's a difference, and
It's
I
just
took
like
that
being
from Drew
poor and
Barrymore.
broke. Those are two different things.
100%.
Yeah, you can be broke all the time, but being
Yeah.
poor is like a permanent state of being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to be a little bit crazy, but there are people that are quite difficult that you have to deal with. But then at the same time, you're like, but they fucking kill
so
them.
good, and
They're
what do you do?
so good, and you just like you got to just kind of
Suck
put
it
up
up.
with it. As long as they're not horrible to people.
And that's
you
the
can.
biggest thing is like they need to just treat you guys well.
Yeah.
But that's the thing in this industry that no one really gets. And we've talked about this before, that this industry has a long memory and it's a small world.
Yeah.
And 1 minute you're up and the next minute you're down and you never fucking know.
Yeah.
So just be good to the people. And it is, your peers are going to be the people in the future who are making the TV shows, commissioning TV shows, putting out the stuff. Like, you know, it's like you never know. You're auditioning with somebody today. They might be the casting director for some
100%.
huge like Spielberg film in the future.
But I do also operate as a person that I give second chances. Do you know what I mean?
We have to.
Like I do put into account of certain things. Sometimes, you know, I get emails from people, you know, pushing back against sometimes when you say no, they push back, which is fine. You know, some people it works for and some people it doesn't. Some people like that kind of thing in their club. Some people don't.
Like aggressive?
Yeah, like aggressive, going, oh, I deserve this.
Right. And they go, oh, you got moxie, kid. We'll book you.
But like, so I do try and give second chances, but then if they kind of stuff up again and again, I'm just a bit like, okay, you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I believe in second chances too, because I just think this, like, that's the problem with cancel culture in general,
100%.
right? If you just go cancel somebody, then why do they have a reason to change or better themselves?
Yeah.
Or they don't have a reason to grow or change or whatever. And this whole podcast is about change.
100%.
I was about to point back here because it usually says you've changed in the background. But it doesn't in this one because we're on location at the Frog. Can I say?
Yeah, of course you can say.
I didn't know if I was like, oh God. We're at the Frog and Bucket Comedy
I think I'm a
Club
good representation
in
for the Frog and
Manchester.
Bucket. Yeah.
Well, TBD. We'll see. We'll see the kind of shit you talk about. How are you doing? How are you in general? How is life? How's Aimee?
So I guess
Oh God, this is already like. Ooh.
I'm an emotional person. I'm just putting that out. I'm a really deep person, but I'm fine.
They call them highly sensitive people,
Yeah,
right?
I am. I'm highly sensitive. I actually got diagnosed like 11
Like if you
years
saw somebody
ago.
suffering. I mean, I talked about this on the pod. I don't know what episode it was. We talked about the bird on the street.
Yes.
And I feel like if I wasn't with you,
that if you were watching, that bird was me and her.
That
and
was us.
That was
we
us.
saved the bird. Well, we didn't. The bird
No, we saved the bird.
We did save the bird.
We saved the bird from a cruel death.
A cruel death, and then people put it into a park.
Yeah. Like this other family helped us as well.
Yeah.
So
people were really nice actually about it.
Yeah, they were really nice. I think in London, people would be like, ugh, bird.
Yeah. Somebody was saying, you know what's funny? And I wonder what you think about this, because you and I both lived in different countries and stuff, so you have a good perspective on this. Somebody was saying the difference between New Yorkers and Londoners. New Yorkers are like initially mean, but they're actually really kind people. And Londoners are kind to your face and actually really awful. And I was like, oh my God, is that why I love London so much? Because I'm actually a massive cunt.
I mean, I've never been to New York, so it's hard.
Have you never been to New York?
No, I know. That's on my bucket list.
How have you never been?
I know, and I really want to go to New York, Chicago, and San Fran. I've been to Seattle.
All three great cities. All four great cities. Seattle's great. You should be down there all the time.
Seattle's like a big Vancouver.
Because you lived in Vancouver.
I did.
For a year. It was like Vancouver's a love that I feel like Vancouver is the love of your life that got away. The one that got away is living in Vancouver for the rest of your life.
Yeah, Vancouver is definitely that for me. Like, I loved Vancouver. I think I was really lost in my mid-20s, and then I was...
Oh my God, I had it all together. I was fucking incredible.
But like in my, I was living in Melbourne. I'm a bit of a nomad. I go where the wind goes.
Where have you... Give me a rundown of all the places you've lived.
Okay.
Give me the major cities you've lived in.
So the major...
Don't do like, I spent like a month traveling.
No.
No.
So the major cities I have lived in would be Christchurch and Aotearoa. I'm originally from Aotearoa, which means New Zealand and Te Reo. And then
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the original name.
Wait, you're from Christchurch?
No, I'm from a little city called Kirikiriroa, which means Hamilton. So
okay.
The reason why I'm saying it in Te Reo is because as a white person, we have to do our work in protecting and helping the language, not becoming extinct. And, the country is theirs, and we have to do our job as white people to pay respect and re-educate ourselves from the false education that we got. Yeah. So that's why I'm doing that, just an FYI.
So grew up there.
So I grew up in Hamilton. I left as soon as I could.
Why?
Well, because my parents were getting divorced. I was working in a supermarket. I failed high school because I'm dyslexic. And I was like, if I don't get out, I will. And I remember a girl working at the same supermarket, and she and I went to intermediate or middle school. I don't know what you would call it here in the UK.
Yeah, I don't know, because Canada's different.
Yeah, we're all different. So, and she was working there, and she had gone to my intermediate, and she had left school. And I was like, if I don't get out now, not that there's anything wrong with working in a supermarket, but I just knew that I was something
like you'll
more.
never get out.
Yeah, I'll never get out, because Hamilton's one of those cities that if you don't leave, you stay.
Yeah,
and that was my mum. Like, she never left, kind of thing.
She's still there?
No, she had like a midlife crisis. She'll kill me for saying this, but she had a midlife crisis. Hi, Mom. And then she just randomly was like, "Oh, I'm moving to Hong Kong," and moved to Hong Kong. And we were like, "What the fuck?"
That's cool.
Yeah, can we swear on this podcast?
Yeah, fucking it's me. Hello.
I said sure.
I called myself a cunt on minute 3 of the podcast. Did you not hear that?
No, oh my God, no, I didn't.
I did the mom and baby show yesterday.
Yeah, that's
where it was 60 moms and babies. It was actually so fun, and they were all crying or whatever. Honestly, less annoying than a bunch of drunk stag dudes.
Yeah.
And less barf too, and pissing themselves.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. But there's somebody. One of the moms posted a picture on her Instagram story going, "Leave it up to Kate Barron to drop the C-bomb 5 minutes into a baby gig at 1 p.m. in the afternoon on a Friday." And I was like, you know what? They told me the babies couldn't understand words and I could do whatever I wanted. Yeah. So do not tell me I can do something if I can't fucking do it, because I will go and run with it.
Yeah.
So yes, you can swear.
Yeah, okay, cool. So my mum upped, and so I just knew that, and so we had a free polytech that were paying for all your fees.
What? Explain what that is.
So it's a Southern Institute of Technology, so it's more of a practical. So not unlike university where it's academic.
But they're paying for all your fees.
Yeah, so it was a free fee scheme. So it was at the bottom of the South Island called Invercargill, and they wanted people to move there. And the mayor was like, hang on, alcohol, we will run all the alcohol in the liquor stores. We won't sell alcohol in the supermarket, and that will help fund these courses. So my friend got in, and I was like,
Wow.
I'm just going to apply for the drama program.
Yeah.
Didn't even audition. The lady just heard me. I was 18, well, 17 at the time, and I didn't know what I was doing. I'd auditioned already for a drama school and failed badly.
I auditioned for radio school at a technical institute, and they were like,
it's the same.
no thanks.
Yeah, it was like a technical institute that I was going to. And so, they accepted me, and I didn't even know where it was. I was so clueless, and I was like, anything to get me out of this.
But, good for you for doing that.
Yeah, and that started my journey as a nomad.
Okay, so where else have you lived? So then you moved there.
I moved there, and then I met my first partner, and 3 years in, we moved to the Central Otago to pick fruit, and then we moved to Queensland, Australia. Yeah. Then we came back, lived in Christchurch, and then we broke up. Yeah. And then I moved to Melbourne because I wanted to be an actor and be on Neighbours. But lo and behold, at the time, Australia was known as the place where actors go to die.
Is it?
Yeah, at that time. Not anymore, but at that time.
Oh.
And it was really funny because every time they were just like, you're a Kiwi, we can hear the accent. So it was just like this
Can
thing.
you do a good Aussie accent?
Yeah, I can.
Of course, you can probably, like... Yeah,
Well,
the only accents I can do are Canadian and American. Not even all of America. I can do like West Coast America. That's basically where I grew up.
Yeah. No, I can because it's just the vowels that are different.
Right,
so Kiwi
of course.
accents, we're kind of like a consonant vowel accent. So we go consonants first and then vowels are second.
Oh.
Whereas Aussies
right,
is
you know all this technique.
Yeah.
You're like an actor. Like
I'm an actor, darling.
A theater person who's all been trained up and everything.
Yeah, so then I lived in Melbourne, and me and my friend weren't happy, and we were like, oh, we've heard that Vancouver's the North Hollywood. Let's go. Yeah. And we were very, we didn't know at the time that we could only get a year visa.
You were on the youth mobility visa as a part of the Commonwealth?
No, it was a working visa. So that's the visa system that you can get is a working visa.
Right, okay.
So we went in on that, and then about 2 months in, we found out we could only do a year. And it was really heartbreaking because it was, for me, like I said, I finally found my people. Like, I listened to heavy metal where all my other friends were talking about, oh my God, I want to buy a house and weight loss, and oh my God, I want to be pretty. And I wasn't like that. I was very much rock and roll, but I kept it all to myself. I know. And I kept it all to myself how much I loved heavy metal, and they would never come.
Do you still love heavy metal?
I still love heavy metal.
Ugh, really?
Yeah, me and Nikki, my workmate, went to Tool. It was the best concert.
I mean, that's cool. I like people who like all different things. It's just not my vibe at all.
Yeah, so, and then obviously that's very Vancouver.
Is it?
I felt like
I feel like Vancouver's very prissy.
No, I felt like I walked back because Melbourne is prissy. Like Melbourne, you can't tell the difference between a gay man and a straight man because they're so well dressed, and the women there are so confident within themselves.
Yeah,
you felt
I see that on the reality shows.
Yeah,
it's out of control.
Honestly, you felt like you were walking down a catwalk every day. I just started to become really fashion
very
focused.
not you.
Very not me.
Your vibe.
And I worked in fashion as well at the time, and it wasn't me. And so, when I got to Canada, I literally was like, oh my God, the men are wearing plaid shirts and skateboards. I was like, I have walked into my dream.
And the women are dressed in Lululemon pants and Ugg boots. This is heaven.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't relate to that either.
Yeah.
And then I just found a really amazing acting coach called Deb Podolsky. And prior to that, I was not really taking it seriously as an actor.
Right,
I was partying a lot, and I remember casting directors told me I'd never work.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they were horrific. And so when I started looking into the craft, I had an acting coach in Melbourne, and he was like, when you get to Vancouver, make sure you work with someone that you connect with. And Deb Podolsky was someone I connected with straight away. I remember telling her I was dyslexic, and at the time I still didn't really understand my own dyslexia, and she's like, that's fine. And she was the first person who truly believed in me and just unlocked something in me that just became this amazing actor. And for me, that year was so special because I also met a group of amazing friends that just got me. And it's going to get me emotional. And then I had to leave, and I couldn't stay. And at the time,
you still keep in contact with the acting coach?
Yeah.
Deb. Yeah,
yeah. She is killing it at the moment. She is doing so well.
Is there no way you can get sponsored to be out there for something?
No, I've tried.
Yeah,
I've looked up every avenue, and I don't want to open that door anymore.
Right.
But she is doing so well. She just was the acting coach on Steven Spielberg's last film.
Wow. The Fabelmans.
Yes, the boy.
Wow.
The son.
Yeah.
She was his acting coach.
Oh, very cool.
So she is killing it at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's so good to see her do well because she was an amazing acting coach. So anyway, that didn't... So obviously I was like, do I go home? Do I go to the UK? I've got a British passport. And I went to the UK and went to London. And I just realized really quickly that even though I had an amazing year of acting, it didn't count for shit. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm living on my brother's couch. I'm eating baked beans and mushrooms.
Yeah.
All my money is going on to travel because he lived in Croydon. And it just became reality. And I was like, right, I'm going home. And so I went back home to Tamari Makota, which means Auckland. And then I found my tribe in Auckland and found my way into comedy randomly.
And then how long were you there before you moved here?
So about 6 years.
So 6 years. And then how long have you been over here for?
4 years.
4 years. So same amount of time. Did we come over the exact same time?
Yeah. We came around. That's why we bonded.
So my memory is like dead.
Yeah,
but yes,
so I
feel
used
like
to
I
work
do
at the Bill
remember
Murray.
that. But you were with Bill Murray. You were with Angel Comedy in London. And that's how we met because you were a booker there.
Yeah.
And you were a manager of the club there.
So I was like, I did everything. I did tech, stage manage,
but that's just
front
most
of house.
comedy clubs, right? You kind of have to do. I mean, you don't usually do like tech and stuff like that. But
no. But
comedy
Angel,
clubs, you have to wear a lot of hats, and Angel is more of a smaller,
fringy kind of.
Yeah, like cooperative type vibe. So you kind of do everything there.
That's a good way of saying it, actually.
So you've lived all over the place. Do you have a place on your bucket list, or are you kind of like? So now you're in. So wait. So now we didn't even finish. So you moved to London.
Yeah. So going to drama school was a bucket list for me. And obviously every actor wants to go LA, and there was a thread of lots of Kiwis going to LA, and I was like, I don't have the money to go to LA, and I don't fit into LA. And I was like, well, I've got a British passport. I don't want to wake up at 60 and not have tried for drama school. So I auditioned for 3, didn't come over, just did a self-tape, and Mount View accepted me. Yeah. And I had a week to decide, which is huge. A week to decide.
And then how long after the decision did you need to be here?
2 months.
That's nothing.
Yeah. So I literally had to pick up my whole life. And my friend, I only told 5 people that I was doing it. And my one friend who really helped me, Catherine, she was like, you were getting on that plane. Because I was not going to do it. Because I didn't have enough money, but I had a little egg, thanks to my granddad. But it went all to Mount View.
Yeah, of course.
But I got a master's, and as a dyslexic, getting a master's from someone who failed high school and was told.
That's amazing.
I got a master's, and it was an amazing year. I met some beautiful people. I cried every week, being the emotional person I am. And then I moved, and then at the same time, Stuart's Goldsmith, because I'd been working in comedy for about 5.5 years at this time at the Classic Comedy Club in New Zealand. I had to do a shout out to them. He got me in touch with Barry and James.
Stu Goldsmith did.
Yeah.
I love him so much.
So he helped me, and then they took me on board, and then they were literally like, we're waiting for you to finish your masters to help us run the weekends with Lou Taylor. So me and her shared.
Oh,
so that's how it happened.
Lou. I haven't seen Lou in forever.
Yeah, because Sarah was having a baby, and Barry just needed to take some time away. And so they got us in to kind of run the ship.
I didn't know Stu Goldsmith was the connection there.
Yeah.
Stu Goldsmith is an amazing comedian.
Yeah, he is.
And he has the Comedian podcast, which is very good, very insider comedy podcast.
Yeah.
When I met him when I first moved over here, I had no idea who he was, and I was at Top Secret. And he goes, "Oh, I have this podcast." I'm like, "Oh, of course you do. We all do. Relax." But then I found out how big his podcast was, and he had Jimmy Carr and all these huge guests on, and it's one of the biggest comedy podcasts, and I was like, oh, okay. But he's so lovely.
Yeah. And
he's
so he
genuinely the nicest
he gave
guy.
me that contact. So
okay, cool. And then you're in London.
I'm in London.
And then pandemic. And
should we get on to the subject of what changed?
So I guess so. The city
I kind of done it for you.
You
sorry.
kind of have this. I like this. This is how I know you're a control freak.
I'm not a control freak.
You're not a control freak. You're used to managing and booking and controlling comedians and wraggling us. I feel because we're like cats.
Oh my god.
And I'm so all over the place with topics that I feel like on this podcast sometimes I'm like jumping all over the place. So you were in London, and now just to finish off the places you've lived. Manchester is where you are currently living.
Yeah, Manchester country.
So you've lived in, I don't even know how many cities you named, but a lot of cities.
Yeah.
That must be, do you have no things? And I say that being because the more I have moved, the more I have rid myself of just stuff, because I see it as more and more as unnecessary.
Yeah.
And then So your actual stuff, or do you have like a secret storage locker back home that's like filled with shit?
No, I'm
Or you just kind of like, baby, I'll go with the clothes on my back and my passport in my hands and I'm good to go.
Yeah, 100%. I've literally got, because my mum eventually moved back to Aotearoa, she's just got like a couple of little containers and stuff, and that's it.
Yeah, my parents have like a box.
Yeah,
like one box basically.
Like 3 little plastic containers of stuff, and it's mostly like books and records that I didn't want to let go of.
Yeah,
it's just stuff like that. But no, I do. I literally have. This is so embarrassing to say, but I have like 1 dinner plate, 1 bowl.
No, I mean whatever. My sister.
I literally don't have like when people are like, let's do a dinner. I'm like, let's not go to mine though, because then I have to buy plates, and I don't want it.
You can do takeout shit, but like when my sister first moved to Toronto, she needed like we bought her like a blow up mattress, and then like and then she was like, I need you guys to like buy some stuff in preparation of me moving there. I can't show up, and like she got a flat. She came out. Found a flat to rent, but it was in Vancouver or in Canada, right? They're completely, even if you're renting, they don't have any furniture. Whereas here you get a lot more like, you get a bed, you get the furniture, the big basics there. But nothing. So we had to go buy her a blow up mattress before she had her bed and everything had arrived from Vancouver. And then she's like, I need like at least a plate, a bowl. So we went to like, I don't know where we went, to Walmart or wherever. And we got her like 1 Mickey Mouse plate, 1 Mickey Mouse or Minnie Mouse bowl, 1 Minnie Mouse cup. And like 1 fork, but she still has those, and she's like married with a kid now and everything, and they own their house and stuff, but she still has them, and they're like for some reason, like the plastic mini bowl and plate and cup, they're like my favorite ones to eat off of when I go to her house. I always want mini. I always say I want mini to eat off of. I don't know, it's a weird thing. I don't think it's embarrassing. I just think it's like that's the thing. You're just living your best bachelor life.
Yeah, 100%.
So, well, you brought it up.
I'm
so
sorry.
No.
I was just like, is this where we go? Because
this is where we go. The podcast has it can go wherever. I want this to be led by my guests, because that's the reason I bring on people who I think are just interesting, cool people. Mm-hmm. And so let's talk about the moment or something in your life that's changed you. And, it doesn't need to be huge. It can be huge and life altering, but it could be like sliding doors type moment. It could be whatever you want it to be. So fire away. What is it that changed you?
So mine is pretty big, and hence why I kind of brought it up before we moved to Manchester, because that's what kind of shifted everything. So my biggest change was my whole life blowing up. And I know that sounds dramatic, but it was true. Like over 2 years from 2019 through the pandemic, everything I knew just kept blowing up. And it's been a transition, and what started it really was my getting diagnosed with POI. So it's premature ovarian insufficiency.
Okay.
And it's a condition where your ovaries stop producing eggs.
Right. So it's like an early onset menopause type.
Yeah. So the best way to describe, because in the health world, and biology and science, women, and the reason why it's not called early menopause is because you're naturally supposed to go into menopause at 52.
Yes.
And you might go into
so it's right. Okay.
So you're meant to. That's when your body is naturally supposed to go through it via science.
Yeah.
So you go into premenopause in your 40s. You could go into that in your 40s. Right. So they call that premenopause. So that's normally mid to late 40s. Mm-hmm. Anything earlier than that is called POI, because it's your ovaries are not working. Like they're not doing their job. And I hate to say this word, but when you're in your prime years of giving birth, that's not normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
To not be able to have any eggs at all and not have your period. So your symptoms are the same. So you get hot flushes, anger, dry vagina. Your emotions are all over the place. You feel hot and cold. Your bones are at risk.
And your estrogen levels are
it's pretty much like being a diabetic. So I have to have HRT before my bones. So unlike where you need sugar for your levels. HRT,
just clarify that is
a hormone replacement therapy,
right?
Yeah.
Hormone replacement therapy. So you're having estrogen.
Yeah.
To help with the symptomatic stuff, like you're with the symptoms and help ease down those symptoms.
Yeah. And so for me, and this is just my experience. Doesn't mean it's everybody's experience who's being diagnosed with this. But the day that I got told this, I remember sitting in the doctor's office, and I just felt my femininity leave the room. And I remember walking down the street thinking, I'm supposed to be with someone. I'm not supposed to be single. when I get told, like, I'm supposed to have a partner that I can talk to about this and it'd be okay, and we have that shared experience and re-talk about our sex life. I'm not supposed to be going on dates of men talking about how they suddenly want kids.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to have sex. So I don't know how to negotiate this. And it took me ages as well to say yes to the medication. I was a bit...
What were your hesitations for it?
Just because...
I mean, I guess going on any medication, you have to really know what you're going on, because if you start it, there's a chance you just can't ever come off of it, right?
Yeah. So, I wanted to do my research. I wanted to think about it because there are high risks of breast cancer. But there is, however... Is
it because you're adding extra estrogen, and so that just would feed any potential malignant...
Maybe. I mean, there's lots of evidence that says it doesn't, but I chose my bones in the end.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't want to get osteoporosis. And my bones in my back, because the thing is I was undiagnosed for 8 years. So I was...
How did they clock that it was 8 years, do you think? Or you just, when you thought your symptoms were starting to come on, and then they sort of were like, well, that's probably when it started happening.
Yes, I've always had issues with my period. And I went on the pill at 18 because I had heavy periods. And then at 27, I hated being on the pill. I was in Canada, so my health insurance ran out. And I was like, I'm not going to get the pill anymore. I hate being on it. It makes me depressed. It's awful. Awful that we're forced onto this stuff. So, and I was also spotting in between pills, and I had to go on harder. It was awful. And so I went off the pill, and then my periods weren't coming back.
Right.
At 27. I was having a period every 3 months, and then the next year it was every 4 months, and then every 5 and every 6. And then in 2016, I was like, I would just lose my shit over the littlest things. I would see red. I literally thought I had anger management issues.
Yeah.
And I'm so apologetic to anyone that, and I was a manager at the time, and I'm really apologetic to anyone that I managed, because I was called a dragon, and I used to joke.
You were called a dragon?
Yeah, and I used to joke that I was called the mother of dragons. Because we had to kick people out and stuff, and we didn't have.
This is when you were living in New Zealand.
This is when I was living in, and so I feel really bad for anyone that I managed, because it's not an excuse. Yeah. But I just would see red like that. I would just be like,
does it like spike your cortisol level too? Like, I guess your stress hormones and all that get all just like...
Yeah, all crazy. Like, it's something that all women are going to look forward to when they hit 50.
Fuck me. Why is it so awful to be a woman? Like, it's honestly...
Why? But, like, literally didn't know. And I kept asking doctors. And because I had an instinct when I was younger that I was not going to be able to have children, I just had an instinct at 22. Knew. I just knew. And so instead of sounding crazy, I just said, I don't want kids.
Right.
Which is also half true. I didn't want them. I was quite happy not having them. But, they just didn't take you seriously. So it was ages and ages. And it wasn't until a new doctor and I found hair on my nipple that I thought I had endometriosis. Excuse my speaking, like, dyslexia. I can't get my mouth around certain things. Good. She said to me, that's quite common. And I was like, why aren't we talking about the hair on the nipples as women? Like, all these things that we don't talk about as women, that we hide everything. And then she said, you might have this condition, but because you're moving to the UK, get it tested there. And then I did my whole master's without going to a doctor.
Were you too afraid to have, like,
I probably was, and I also didn't have time. Because my master's was intense.
Yeah. But do you think it's part of you just going like, I don't want to hear what I'm probably I'm going to hear something scary and I'm not ready to hear that?
A little bit, but not really. I think I was just too busy. And doctors, you had to wait at that point like 3 weeks.
Right. It's not like it's any better now.
Yeah. And so, whereas back in New Zealand, you pay for a GP so you can get in within 3 days.
Does New Zealand not have like the same, isn't it like Canada and here, like with healthcare, it's like
Yeah, hospitals and stuff.
Yeah.
But for a GP, you pay.
Oh, okay.
Which makes it's annoying, but at the same time, you get an appointment within 24 hours.
Yeah, okay.
But, so just and then getting that news in 2019, I just was probably in denial. And then when COVID hit.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, okay, I'll start taking the medication, but you couldn't see a doctor. So it was like doing everything via the phone. And then I lost my job because I had to save the club and I didn't know what to do. I couldn't get back home to my country.
Right, because they were all locked up.
They were all locked up. I had no money either, and you couldn't go anywhere. And then, so that blew up. The acting world blew up. Like, everything just was like, if you were at the bottom of the tier in acting, it's still a shit show. It's still, so many of us can't even get in the room anymore. And then, just other things that happen. And then, sadly lost my uncle to COVID, and you know, death, always that grief. And luckily I had a couple of friends moving up here, and my best friend was like, come stay with me. Yeah. And so I just moved to Manchester, broken, like a broken shell.
I remember seeing you right before you moved.
Yeah, I was really broken. Yeah. All of it, because I just didn't know how to operate in the world anymore. This patriarchal society that we had been brought up to believe that we needed to look like FHM or, you know, Victoria's Secret models, and that we needed to be these certain type of women for men, and everything around sex was to do with men and their right of your body, was this thing of like, well, then how do I operate in a world that still kind of operates like that? Like, how do I, you know, it's not an easy conversation to have with someone. You need to have that trust there. And we're now online dating. It's even
I was going to say, those are pretty heavy first date topics to be talking about.
100%.
Like, and did you stop dating for a while when that happened? Are you dating now?
I'm not dating now.
What do you think? Are you nervous to date? Is it just like the act of dating itself is awful? We all know it's bad. It's so annoying. The apps are bad, whatever. But it's sort of like this necessary evil. If you want to be dating nowadays, you just have to be on the apps. Yeah. But like, you strike me as someone who would rather just like meet somebody organically in person, which everyone would rather that. Everyone would rather have like a meet cute and like have a little moment. But like, that's just not reality. But like, do you think part of it is that you're scared of opening, because you have to tell them all of this stuff about you? It's not just, you know, and the older you get, the more baggage you have, and you have all this stuff, and it's like, are you worried that it's going to be too much for someone?
Not just that, but my record of excluding my ex, which was my longest relationship, my record with men was not the greatest. Right. Yeah. They were not healthy on either side. And for me, I was just like, I need to work on myself before I can let another man into my world. Because,
which is a very good outlook to have.
Which is a good outlook.
All about self-work.
100%, because I was like, I cannot get broken. Yeah. By a man who's not willing to work on themselves, who just is there for seeing you as a sexual object. Like,
don't let a man without a bed frame reject you. Like, there's nothing worse for your self-esteem
100%
than a man who has a receding hairline, no bed frame, one pillow, telling you you're not enough for him, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And so I just knew that, because I was so broken, and I'm still recovering. Yeah. But my life, and it's still a hard pill for me to swallow, and I've only kind of acknowledged it in the last couple of weeks, actually, that my life needed to blow up in order to become the person I'm meant to be. But that is a hard pill to swallow, because you're like, so that means everything I was doing was not right for me or healthy for me.
But you learned a lot.
I learned a lot, yeah.
When you do stuff that's not right for you ultimately, or you sort of, you know, you change your path or whatever, right? You still like, it wasn't all for nothing.
No,
and stuff you have to go through and you have to experience.
Yeah,
and you
100%.
You wouldn't be in the position where you're working on yourself and seeking healthy relationships now if you didn't go through the shitty ones.
Yeah.
And have those other times.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think? You said part of it was that you felt when you got diagnosed. Say it again what it is.
Premature ovarian insufficiency.
Right, and it's shortened to POI is how people refer to it. POI.
Yeah.
POI. So when you got that, you said you felt like you lost your femininity. Do you feel like you've gained that back, or do you care to have gained that back, or do you feel like
I'm having to relearn it in a new way, I think.
Right. Like, what is it to be a woman? Like, you know, it's not some costume we put on. It's not makeup doesn't make you a woman. Like, putting on a dress doesn't make you a woman. Being able to have a baby doesn't make you a woman. Like, it is so much more complex than it's just not so simple.
And it's interesting because that's such a hot topic at the moment. What makes you a woman? And it's interesting that they're using the baby argument. And it's like, well, a lot of us, it's so hard for us who can't. Like, there's so many women with POI who struggle because they really want children. Yeah. And we've got a 2% chance of able to have a baby. So that percentage is so hard. That's so low. Sorry.
So low,
the percentage of not having one is really, really high. And so you know, there's a lot of women out there who are really struggling with poi. I struggled with it. I'm still struggling with it. Like, I have to have like prior to the medication I'm on now, and they keep running out of medication as well. So it's not like it's easy to get.
I feel like they keep running out of so many medications
right
now. People are
saying
they're
like,
yeah.
It's all because of Brexit. But
fuck, man.
I know.
Oh god.
Anyway, we won't get on that subject.
Yeah, don't get me started on that.
And I don't care that I'm going to be graphic right now, but I used to have to take a pill which helps your line not getting overflown by the estrogen you're taking.
Right, okay.
And I had to put that up in me.
Every day?
Every night. So again, I didn't feel attractive or sexual because I'm putting a pill up me.
That's not sexy.
And that's not sexy.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I was putting on gel until they ran out of the gel. Now I moved to patches, and now I'm on a patch that has both because I get vertigo from it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I've been having vertigo for
Is that a normal symptom of the HRT?
A little bit, yeah. So,
so what does vertigo feel like? Like, it's like you're just extreme dizziness, right? All the time.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, when you've drunken too much and then you lay on your bed and your head spins.
Yes, I do know that.
Yeah, that is pretty much what it's like.
Fuck.
And it can be a bit like...
And it makes you sick and stuff. Like, it'll get you nauseous.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had to go through MRIs. I've had to go through ear examinations. They had to induce a vertigo attack.
How do they induce it?
They shove like water fastly into your ear. It's awful to make sure it wasn't my ear.
Yeah.
And because of what I went through with COVID, I've got tinnitus in my ear, which is just a battle wound, if you will, of what I went through. So that's something I now have to live with. But yeah, so
God.
Yeah, so I've gone through the ringer with this, so it's not been a fun, and I've had to do it alone, which has been hard because you don't want to go through these things alone. Not that I think that we should have to be with someone. Like, I think, you know, you can be on your own, but people say stupid stuff to you all the time. Like, you get friends like, oh, when you get a dick into you, or like, oh, why don't you get out and get laid, or when you have, you know, and then you get stupid people saying, oh, when are you having kids? Time's running out.
Yeah.
And so you have to deal with that all the time going, I don't think you understand.
Yeah.
If it was a man and we were talking about men struggling to get it up and they were feeling, everyone would be like, oh yeah, that's really sad that he can't get it up. But because that's such a visual up, but because a woman's so inner, we don't think about...
It's like hidden everything.
It's hidden everything.
It's like, I have endometriosis and PCOS, and a lot of that is so like, people are like, what even like is that? Is that real? You know, and people go to the emergency room because they're in so much pain from it, and doctors will be like, here's some paracetamol.
Yeah.
Like,
and we're not, and doctors, you know, don't take it seriously.
Well, the specialists do, but the problem is specialists are hard to come by. And it's a long fucking wait.
Mm-hmm.
And GPs are great, but they know a little bit about a lot of things.
Yes.
And they just aren't trained to be specialists and everything. And especially in this country, they don't get paid. I just found out what fucking junior doctors make. They make like shit money.
Yeah.
Like they get paid like nurses. Don't get me started on them. They're fucking overworked and underpaid. My sister's a nurse.
100%.
Come from a long line of nurses. Have so much respect for them. But it's like... It's crazy, all that stuff, and just like, the lack of understanding around these issues, and that's on the medical front, let alone just like regular everyday people just not having any comprehension of what you're going through.
Yeah, and also too, what's hard is there is support groups out there. There are Facebook pages and all that, but
this is where social media I think is great. It's
social
in the support groups, the shared communities online of going, I'm not alone, and I feel like people. However many years ago, not that long ago, would go, I'm suffering alone with this. But then you actually go, oh, yeah, like I'm not so alone in this.
Yeah, I think it is great. However, sometimes they are mostly women talking about how they can't have kids and how like, oh, my friend told me. And for me, as somebody, like I said, I'm quite an intuitive person within my own feelings. Like, it's weird when I think about it. At 19, I was diagnosed with IBS. And straight away, I was like, cool, I'll change my diet.
I heard a thing that says all hot girls have IBS.
Yeah.
So congratulations, you're a hottie.
No, but like, you know, because if I hadn't changed that, if I hadn't given up drinking almost 10 years ago, I would have had to do it you know, when I got diagnosed.
Yeah.
But it was like my body was preparing me for this.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that, of course, at the time. It was like when I was 22 and I read The Other Boleyn Girl and I sympathized with Anne Boleyn and how she struggled to have kids and struggled to give him a boy. And I was like, oh, I totally understand how she feels.
Yeah.
And I didn't say it aloud to people, oh, I don't think I can have kids. Because that's insulting as well to people. Oh, I don't think I can. Because you don't have the...
I don't know if it's insulting to them.
But no, but like, you know, you do have to be careful what you say scary to people.
I think there's now much more of awareness of like, or like a married
at the
couple,
time.
right?
And I mean, we're 80s babies, so
shut the fuck up! Don't tell people how old I am.
who cares? You know, and so like. Yeah, so for me, I was very lucky that I had that instinct, but a lot of people focus on the womb, focus on the children. We focus all about a woman having a baby, but we don't talk about sex. We don't talk about what it does to your sex life. We don't talk about how dry you are now, how thin your lining is, how you're going to get BV infections, how it hurts when a man is too rough. And the pain that you get because you've got POI. Like, we don't talk about that kind of stuff with these conditions. We just medically and human, we just focus on, you can't have children.
Yeah.
We don't talk about everything else that goes with this.
Yeah. So there's these, I am a part of some of these Facebook groups where it was like PCOS and endometriosis and stuff. And there's one specifically with PCOS, and a lot of it is on conceiving there, right? It's a lot of it is to do with like, you know, trying to have a baby and all this stuff. But so there's a separate one that is all about, they created basically a fraction of those girls created a whole other page just to go PCOS, not trying to conceive.
Yeah.
Like, do not post about failed pregnancy tests. Do not post about miscarriages. They don't want to see all that stuff. It's like this is about a different sort of thing. And I think it's good to have some separation. So there must be something out there, or create it yourself.
Yeah, I might just create it myself.
Just to create like a group, because if there's one, there's many. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I did write an article for someone about dating, and a lot of people did comment going, oh my God, I feel the same way. I'm single. I'm struggling with dating. And because weirdly, men in their 20s don't want children. They'll do anything.
Yeah, of course.
To not have kids.
They'll come anywhere.
Except for wearing a condom.
Except for wearing a condom.
Except for taking any responsibility.
In a condom.
Yeah. But yeah, in their 30s, you go on a date with them. They're like, oh yeah, you know, kids. They'll talk about their kids and their ex-girlfriend. That's what they'll talk about. Yeah. And you're like, oh, now I'm your therapist, and to keep your line going, like,
maybe you should just hang out at a therapist's office and meet the men that come out of there, because at least they're working on themselves.
This is true.
They might be fucked up, but at least they're working on themselves.
You know what? But I'm okay on my own. Genuinely, I've been on my own now, and I'm dealing with it on my own, and I'm okay with dealing with it on my own. It's just been a hard journey. Do
you think, if you were with somebody, do you think they need to know all of this when you date them? Do you think they'll need to know your whole story? When my therapist asked me after I'd gone through like the weight loss surgery and done everything, she goes, do you think you even really need to disclose it? Like, do you really, what do you owe somebody that you're dating to disclose it? And my thing was like, to know me wholly, to love me is to know me fully, and to know me fully is to know all of this shit. Yeah. You gotta know all the ugly bits, right? The what do they say, like warts and all? You gotta know somebody. So I felt like you have to, because you got to know what I went through to get here. Yes. And I won't feel you fully love me until you know all the bad bits and you still choose to love me after that. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Do you feel like that too? Yeah. 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 I think for me now, you'd have to be my friend for a while. Yeah, that's not a bad shout though. Like, to actually be friends with somebody and to... Yeah. Yeah. Would you work with like... So, do you mind talking about sex? No, I don't mind talking about sex. So... have you had sex since you've been diagnosed? Yes. And with the person you had sex with, did they know? No. Right. And were you able to, was it uncomfortable? Like, were you able to, or was it kind of like, okay. I'll just talk about a positive one, because I've had a negative one. I don't really want to talk about that. But a positive one, I'd known the person for years. Right. So you felt comfortable and it was a good different situation. Yeah. We'd had history. So that's why you're now saying maybe friends first is easier. Yeah. Because I'd known him for years. He was, a friend of mine in Canada. Look at your face lit up when you spoke about this person. Well, you've got to have one special, I think, in your life, right? One special that hangs about? Yeah, not so much anymore, but at the time, yeah. Okay, that's cool. But it was a beautiful experience. Yeah. It was really loving and caring. But that's because we knew each other, so it's not like... But the other negative one, we didn't really know each other. How do you think... And I don't like one-night stands anymore. I'm too deep of a person. Yeah, you are. You're a highly sensitive person like that. You got to go on. If you're gonna sleep with me, you got to go on the ride of deepness. Yeah, I feel you. How do you think? So, I mean, this has changed you a lot. The diagnosis, obviously. Yeah. What do you think is the biggest way it's changed you for the positive? I think I'm still going through it, but I think it's just made me
like, it's a really hard question to answer because I'm still going through it. But I think it, like I said, I see life like this. Your 20s is your BA, your 30s is your master's, and your 40s and 50s is your doctorate.
And then your 60s, you die.
In your 60s, you're like, cool, I'm going to go fuck up a country. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
No, and I feel like I'm in that part of doing my thesis where you're writing it.
Right, okay.
I've done
so
my
you're
study.
in the thick of it.
I'm in the thick of it at the moment.
You haven't pulled back to see, okay.
No, I haven't. I'm almost at my doctorate.
Okay.
I'm now, life is preparing me for my doctorate, if you will.
Okay.
So that's kind of where that's the best way I can answer it because I don't know. And I think I won't know until some years out of it to look back and go, oh, okay, that's like, what that was for.
Some hindsight on it.
Yeah, but that's how I see life. I see life as like a university, which makes more sense because in your 20s you are a bit like, what am I doing?
I was such a piece of shit in my 20s.
Same.
I was a fucking reckless party girl.
Yeah.
I was an idiot. I was the girl.
Insecure.
Oh my god! But it was
insecure.
It was all from insecurity.
Yeah,
it was
same.
all from insecurity. Everything stemmed from insecurity. And like I look back and I just go, oh, young dumb bitch. Like I would if I had 20-something-year-old me in a comedy crowd, I would kick me out. I would be like, security, get this fucking loud, annoying bitch out of this. And then I'd be like, nah. And I'd be fighting and I'd be that girl. I'd be the drunk white woman I complain about in the club. That's why I call them out because I fucking see myself.
I used to call myself a vodka monster if I drank vodka.
Oh my God. Do you know that I used to drink this drink with my friends where we used to get really cheap white wine and then really cheap vodka and we'd mix the two. Wow. And when you mix the two, it almost cancels out. Do not do this at home. Unless you want to like not remember the night, throw up on yourself and like have like
my God. I will tell you
it's like the messiest thing ever. Yeah. But they cancel each other out and you just get beyond messed up. It's so bad for you. We used to put shots of vodka in wine.
We used to in Aotearoa used to have box wine, cast wine. We call it a goon bag. And we used you would fill up a, shout out to my friend Jade here. We used to work together. And funny enough, when I was 19, we worked at a bar called the Frog and Firkin. Isn't that funny?
2 frog places.
Yeah, man. And so we used to fill a pint glass with 3/4 of this cast wine and then top it with orange juice and drink it through a straw.
Classy. That is my classy. I know, we're so gross. Like the shit we used to do.
But do you know how lucky we are as millennials because we didn't have social media?
Oh my God. I had it at the end. So the tail end, we did have Facebook and stuff. I remember when we got, so there's some things on Facebook that I'm like, oh, like, it's cringy.
Yeah, mid-20s.
We would take our Canon cameras out to the bar and be like, and like,
but like, even like when people had their cell phone, I remember if you had your cell phone on the dance floor and you could only have so many characters. Yeah, you paid, it was like 25 cents a character. Like,
and you had to press each letter
it was like times. Twitter. It was like Twitter, but on your phone. And then
succinct messages though.
And we used to be like, get that off the floor. What are you doing? Like, we used to yell at our friends.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, if you had, because it was like, be in the moment.
Oh, I feel like we were all like, as soon as BlackBerry started coming out, we all got BlackBerries and we'd be like, on the fucking
BlackBerry wasn't really a thing.
But not in New Zealand.
No. It was an American thing.
Oh, it was so big. Everyone had BBM, which was like that inner message thing. That. So if you didn't have a BlackBerry, you were like a fucking loser.
No, we didn't have. We had like Vodafone Alcatel. That was a thing. You could win Coca-Cola ones.
Sounds very cool.
It was really a go.
So now I ask everyone this question at the end. What is something about your life that you hope never changes?
About my life or about me?
Anything. About you or about your life. What is something you hope never changes?
Do you know what? My curiosity.
Oh, that's a really good answer.
Yeah, I love, that's a gift of being dyslexic, is being curious. And for me, it makes me constantly question the world I live in. And it keeps me open to listening to things. And then if I'm like, that doesn't sound right, I'll then research. Yeah. I love researching. That's one thing I love about acting, is that you get to research somebody else's life.
Ugh, that sounds like a nightmare to me.
Yeah, no, I love it. I just
want to go tell dick jokes on stage. I don't want to research shit.
You know, and then I'm always, I'm just such a curious person, and I don't want that to ever change.
Oh, that's really good. Is that why you think you like moving so much? Because you just like popping around, and then you get to explore a whole new city and be totally curious about a whole new environment.
Yeah.
But do you think that's gonna be? Do you think that's gonna continue as you get older? Like you'll keep, or do you think you're like, okay, I want to find somewhere and settle, and that be my home?
I will always settle back in Aotearoa. That is my home.
Yeah,
I belong in that land. Do you know what I mean? Like it's really a beautiful place. Like we have our faults as a nation.
We all do.
Our nation has a lot of work to do. But I feel like it's just the nature there. There's just something really magical there with the nature. And it's all because of what...
I really want to go.
Oh my God, it's all because of what Māori did. Like they are so giving to the land and they really love the land. And so they have made it a really magical, beautiful place for us to live in. So we have to give kudos to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of like Scotland in a way. I don't know if you've ever been up into the Highlands.
Yeah,
There's something magical up there.
There is, yeah.
And it's beautiful. And
the
I
Loch
love
Ness Monster.
that.
She's magical up there.
There's fairies, man. There's fae people up there.
Yeah, there is something very cool about.
They're so cool.
I really do want to go to New Zealand because I've never been. I really want to go. I was supposed to go to Australia for the Melbourne Comedy Festival in 2020, but then that little pandemic happened.
Oh, that thing.
The little panini.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
has
for
been
having
so
me.
lovely. Thank you for being so open and honest about all this because this is something that I feel like is just completely something that I didn't know anything about. I think a lot of people don't know about it. They've never heard of it.
Yeah.
So this is really just very enlightening, I think.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much. Aimee Perry, the wonderful. I'll tag her and everything. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening and watching. Bye.